Let me first give you an overview of the iOS development cycle, which is the process of developing an app for iOS to run on an iPhone or an iPad or both. Now, if you remember science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke's third law, that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, then you can see how iOS programming can be compared to a form of magic, or more like a form of alchemy, the transmutation of a set of logical instructions into a functioning app. And in this alchemical experiment, the iOS Software Development Kit, or SDK, and Xcode, the Integrated Development Environment, or IDE, they are the forge and crucible. To make an app that uses iOS, you develop the app using the iOS SDK. This SDK comes with all the frameworks your app needs to do things with these devices. Now, to develop an iOS app, you have to work within the context of an Xcode project. Xcode includes Interface Builder, which you can use to quickly build your app's user interface. The idea here is to add your code incrementally, step by step, so that you can always step back and see how just what you did affects the big picture. Now, to keep from drowning in that abyss, you need a plan to guide you through it. Socrates anticipated software development when he said that there's nothing stable in human affairs. Tacitus, with more data in hand 450 years later, saw that in all things there is a law of cycles. And by the late 1960s, the Jefferson Airplane were singing, "Roll with the natural flow like water off a spinning ball." In plain words, your software development plan is a cycle, perhaps a vicious cycle, but it can be a cycle through the park. You may repeat procedures within the cycle iteratively until you get it right, but the key to understanding the cycle is the recognition that after you spin off version 1 of your app, you start all over again to develop an update. In general terms, the software development cycle is the process of creating or altering a software product or service. Theorists have created models and methodologies for defining this cycle, and at least a half a dozen models exist, but the one I go through in this course is pretty simple and is well suited for developing for the iPhone and the iPad. The general steps in the development cycle look something like this. You start with Xcode, which is Apple's development environment for the OS X operating system as well as for iOS. In other words, Xcode is what you'd use if you were creating Mac applications that run OS X, as well as for creating iPhone and iPad applications that run iOS. Now, all projects start with Xcode. The question really is whether you want to design the user interface as your second step, or start writing the code as your third step, or vice versa. Start writing some code and then design the user interface. But in either way you do it, it's an iterative process that keeps going and going and going until you get it right. The point is that you design the user interface and you write the code pretty much at the same time, and you keep doing it until you get it to the point where you're ready for step 4, which is to build and run your app. Most of the time you'll be building and running your app on the iPhone or iPad simulator, which is really a piece of software that runs on the Mac that simulates the iPhone or iPad. The 5th step is to test your app and to remove any bugs. This is as far as we get in this course for creating the sample applications that we're going to do for the iPhone and iPad. We go through all the steps up to step 5. We don't really do the tuning of the app's performance, and we don't do it all again because it's ready to go at step 5. But if you're developing a commercial app, you'll want to go all the way through step 6 and to tune your app on the iPhone or iPad as necessary. Of course, the actual analysis, design, and programming, and not to mention testing, has a bit more to it than this. And the specification and design definitely involve more than what you see in this course. But from a process perspective, developing these sample apps in this course and developing a commercial project are pretty close to the same thing. This course gets you all the way to a sample app and gives you an idea of the questions you need to ask yourself and others and to get answers for before developing a commercial iPhone or iPad app.